Jeff, we usually start out our adventures in like a forest or some road somewhere, maybe walking along the beach. Why are we in the Foster, Rhode Island Library?
Shh!
I'm sorry. Why are we in a library?
Ray, some of the best adventures begin in a library. We're here looking for an old book, the 1885 Rhode Island State Census. Here it is. Check this out. On the top of page 36, under the list of mills in the state, tell me what you see under the description of the Ramtail factory's current condition.
Wow. There's just one word there. Haunted.
I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger, and welcome to episode 36 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And thank you to all our legendary listeners who've been subscribing to the podcast, posting reviews on iTunes. We appreciate it. And also, we want to make a very cool announcement this week.
Wait. Do you need a drum roll?
A drum roll, a brass band, a choir of angels. I'm not picky, Ray.
All right, hold on.
My first audiobook just hit the virtual shelves this week. It's called Who's Haunting the White House? It's a nonfiction book for young readers, ages 10 and up. And it's now available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. We've got voice actors, music, some cool sound effects, and if you listen closely, you may recognize some of the voice actors from this very podcast. Ray, I think I heard you in there a few times.
You may have. Plus, the book includes an interview we did together about the ghost of the White House. So everyone should check out this thing on audible.com. All right, Jeff, back to this haunted mill in Rhode Island. I'm blown away that the official state census of Rhode Island lists the Ramtail factory as haunted. How did that happen?
In 1885, Amos Perry, the superintendent of that year's Rhode Island census, saw fit to designate the Ramtail factory as haunted. The census, as you can imagine, is very businesslike.
I can see that. In each town, this book lists the names of villages, hills, streams, rocks, notable historic sites, and businesses. Just boring lists. But right next to Ramtail Factory in parenthesis, it says haunted. No other listing of anything have any descriptions. No colors, nothing distinguishing about the architecture, nothing. But Ramtail is haunted.
There are still some ruins of the factory out here in the woods of Foster, Rhode Island. The area still has ghostly activity, too.
Well, I've heard stories about how the Ramtail factory ruins are haunted by an old night watchman who hanged himself by the rope of the factory work bell. They can still hear the tolling of the iron bell out there late at night. I'd love to go check that out. Well, this is a pretty spot. The Pontiganset River is gently rolling by. There's a path through the woods here and a bunch of colonial stone walls.
It's just a short walk to the ruins of the factory. It's just by that stream over there.
Very cool. I see more stone walls, but this looks more like a foundation of a building. One wall looks to be about 8 feet tall and runs maybe 40 feet or so. There are some other stone slabs forming a small bridge over the stream nearby, and what looks like the ruins and cellar holes of some smaller stone structures.
Well, our story starts in 1791 in the town of Foster, Rhode Island. This guy named William Potter moves to the area and starts managing one of the 3 water-powered mills. But Potter has bigger dreams of being his own boss. By 1813, he's ready to make those dreams into a reality. So Potter partners with his son, Olney, his brother-in-law Jonathan Ellis, and his 2 sons-in-laws Marvin Round and Peleg Walker. Pooling their money, they purchased 6 acres of land right next to the Pontiganset River.
On this site, the partners build the Foster Woolen Manufactory, a fulling mill which processes raw wool into cloth and yarn. Now, within a few years, the business prospers, and a small village evolves nearby for the workers who were employed there. Life was good, so the name Ramtail Factory is more of a nickname that stuck. By the end of the workday, the factory floor was covered with these little curls of wool that were cutoffs from the water wheel-powered processing machines. They resembled the curly tails of rams. Eventually, the nickname surpasses the real name for the business in Foster.
We need to understand that this is a water-powered factory that operates from sunup to sundown. There's no electricity. Business partner Peleg Walker takes the responsibility for checking over the mill each night after work, making sure the machines are properly shut down, and then locking the doors. In the morning, Peleg is the first one here to unlock the factory and ring the work bell, calling the employees to the mill.
For the next 9 years, the mill prospers. William Potter's dream is a reality. He's his own boss, and they're flourishing. But that's not true of all the partners. Trouble was brewing.
In 1822, that trouble came in the form of financial difficulties for partner Peleg Walker. He'd racked up debt and found his only option was to hand over his financial interests in the business to William and Olney Potter. But we need to remember, this isn't just business. These guys are family. Peleg Walker is William's son-in-law.
Now, when you mix family with business, debt, and money, good things are bound to happen.
As true then as it is now. Things come to a head on May 18th, 1822 in the company office. An argument ensues when the Potters tell Peleg that as of midnight, he will no longer be a partner and will have to hand over the keys to the mill. Peleg doesn't take kindly to this request. He feels like he's losing everything he's worked so hard to help build. A worker passing by overhears Peleg say,
"The next time you take these keys from me, it will be out of the pocket of a dead man."
That night, Peleg Walker enters the mill just after dark. He checks over all the machines, as is his usual custom, but then he locks the door from the inside. Peleg has no intention of leaving the Ramtail factory alive. The way I first heard it, Peleg tied the work bell rope around his neck and hanged himself inside. The next morning, workers came to the mill to find the door locked and no way to get inside. An employee runs into town to fetch William Potter, while others break through the window and slip inside. There they find the lifeless body of Peleg Walker. True to his word, the factory keys are in his pocket. The pocket of a dead man. Walker was only 35 years old.
While no one argues Peleg Walker is found dead inside the Ramtail factory, it's the method of suicide that's wrong.
You know, the hanging by the rope bell, it bothers me a little.
Why is that?
Because if Peleg Walker hanged himself by the bell rope at midnight, wouldn't everyone in the nearby mill houses have heard it? Even if they didn't bother to come look, you'd think someone would mention that the next day.
I believe you're right. They would have heard the bell ring. Doing some more historical digging, it turns out this story is darker than we thought.
Ooh, what'd you find?
Well, in 1948, Foster historian named Clara Wade Clements learned that Peleg Walker wasn't the only suicide at the mill, and he didn't hang himself.
You're kidding.
Clements was first tipped off by a poem she found written in 1884 by a local woman named Marcia Barden. The poem mentioned 2 suicides at Ramtail. One was a hanging. This led Clements to more documents, and that's when she found out that Peleg Walker wasn't the guy who hanged himself. He waited until just after midnight when he was officially no longer a business partner. He picked up a sharp pair of cutting shears, then sliced his own throat from ear to ear. He bled to death on the factory floor. There was no bell tolling for work the next morning.
That's horrible. Who was the other suicide?
We don't know. The only description is that it happened after Peleg Walker to a factory employee who was despondent.
Here's where the haunting legend starts. In the coming years, stories have been passed around of nearby employees being woken up in the middle of the night by the sound of a water wheel engaging at the factory. Others claim they would hear the work bell toll at midnight.
At one point, the factory removes the rope from the work bell to stop this from happening. But it doesn't stop. The bell continues to ring.
But the most peculiar part of the haunt is the story of workers walking into the factory in the morning to find the water wheel spinning against the flow of water.
Oh man, that just gave me chills. It's just so unnatural. This haunting may explain why the factory dwindled in the coming years. Some people believe no one wanted to work here because it was so haunted. By 1850, the mill was closed for good.
Still, the stories continue. But in 1873, the abandoned mill burned to the ground in a mysterious fire. Some believe it was set by vandals. Others claim the fire was set to cleanse the place of ghosts.
Well, it didn't work. The stories continue to this day. People still report hearing the tolling of the work bell, even though the building and bell are long gone. Some see the ghost of Peleg Walker walking through these grounds carrying a lantern. Others just get an eerie feeling among these stone ruins.
Like the feeling I have right now? When I think about standing right where this took place, I can't help but get chills myself. Maybe it's time we get out of here? I mean, what's the last word on this, Jeff?
The ghost of Peleg Walker still haunts us in so many ways. And in 1885, the Rhode Island state census made this haunt official. But as for the last word, I think we should give that to old Peleg himself. He's buried over at Potter Cemetery in Foster. The epitaph on his tombstone says it all.
Life, how short. Eternity, how long.
Is it just me, or were epitaphs creepier centuries ago? I recall seeing another one that said, "I'm watching and waiting for you."
People knew how to die back then, didn't they?
They did, yeah. If you want to see some pictures of the stone ruins of the Ramtail factory, go to our website at ournewenglandlegends.com and click on episode 36.
There you can also find out how to subscribe to our show for free through your smartphone, and there's a link to join our super secret Facebook group. Our theme music is by John Judd, and thanks to Dave Schrader for lending his voice this week.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.